So, Halo's finally out. We got a new Halo game for the first time in quite some time, and it's just okay. If I'm being completely honest, I am actually a very big Halo fan. I've enjoyed it. I loved the Bungie era and even some of the 343 stuff. But this new sort of era we find ourselves in with Halo Campaign Evolved, it's the first time we are multi-platform on other systems. It's a day one Game Pass release, and the first time we're using a new engine that isn't locally sourced and homegrown inside Halo Studios, formerly 343. And it's one of the first times I believe that they're also working with other studios to help develop the game. And it shows the change to UE5 is complicated in my opinion, because I do see where they're coming from. I think logically and logistically it makes a ton of sense. If you're going to do this stupid contractual rotating your employee sort of development style, you might as well choose the most popular, the most well-known and easily transferable skill set for your developers. That means using the most prolific engines. That most likely in this case means UE5. And the change to that certainly does make the game feel a little bit more generic. There is no other way to describe it. When I initially started to play the Campaign Evolved on PC, I started out with keyboard and mouse because I've been playing a lot of other games with keyboard and mouse. In doing so, one, the sensitivity was crazy. I figured I wouldn't really need to change my sensitivity after playing COD previously, and nope, I had to turn that stuff way the heck down. Once I fixed my sensitivity and actually started playing the game, starting with the bonus missions, which I'll get into later, it felt like a fairly generic shooter. Like, there's no other way to describe it, that it lost what made Halo feel like Halo. And I don't even necessarily mean the addition of sprinting made it feel less like Halo, but fundamentally, the weapons don't quite have that same weight to it. Even compared to something relatively recent like Halo Infinite, still felt like Halo, and that used the Slip Space engine. And there are other games used modified versions of other engines in the past, but customized and tailored to work for them and their development style, which that came with its own benefits and drawbacks. But if anything, it has proven in other games like in Battlefield 6, making your engine custom to what you want to do usually does provide overall better results in an increased level of optimization and allowing you to optimize for the things that you want to do. When you use the same thing for everything, you don't really do any one thing in particular really well. And in this instance, this game loves its particle effects. Quite literally, any plasma-based weapon has just a hail of particle effects. I don't know if it's just because I've been playing on 1440p Ultra, but damn, are there just a whack ton of particle effects in this game. It looks fantastic in some places. Especially in some spots though, it's a bit, no other way to describe it other than maximalist. It just feels like some of the more monotonous Covenant corridors are utilizing a lot of the same repeating complex textures, making it just visually very It's just a lot of the time, you know? There's none of that classic simplicity or subdued or even like subtle details in these Covenant or in Forerunner designs. A lot of the time they go for hyper-generic sci-fi blues and purples. Purple for the Covenant and blues for the Forerunner. And sometimes it looks really good, especially if you contrast it with some of the flood areas. The Forerunner flood areas look really, really good. And the flood overall was represented really well in UE5. But the Covenant, especially when you're just going through the normal corridors and doorways and rooms, it gets a little visually monotonous. The combat and the enemy AI, it doesn't quite feel right. Like, a lot of the combat encounters are really easy. Like, I played this on Legendary, and I was able to blow through most of this game in a day, in an afternoon with me and one other of my friends. So this game isn't particularly hard, even in its hardest setting. There are some encounters and some checkpoints that make completely no sense, and a lot of the ways you can get yourself stuck in certain areas, but just a quick checkpoint reset usually fixes it, which is fine. But overall, it just felt off. It felt very generic. I have been fairly negative, but I do genuinely really like the original Halo game. I remember playing it on my original Xbox not too long ago in anticipation of this release, going back and playing it once again in the Anniversary Collection in normal mode. I will not ever use the Anniversary or Master Chief Collection, updated visuals. It just looks so bad. But I do get a lot of the same vibes, but at least those felt like Halo. In this most recent entry with Campaign Evolved, it just doesn't quite feel like Halo. It feels way more of a generic shooter than anything else. Now, switching to controller did make it feel a little bit more like Halo, but it didn't do much to appreciably improve the overall experience. The bonus missions are where I think this game really did try to make a name for itself, like to sort of separate itself from the original. But I was initially pretty excited for the idea of bonus missions taking place a year before the original campaign. I thought, hey, that could be a pretty interesting thing to actually explore. But I don't know what it is, but this whole bonus mission segment, first off, dragged on way too long. The ship flying segment was fun for 5 minutes, but when it dragged out as long as it did, I wanted to throw my controller. Because I'm like, if I had to destroy another one of these fakakted ships, I'm going to lose it. Because it just dragged on for so long. And the entirety of any of my interactions with the character that I already forgot their name, Lieutenant Williams, drove me insane. And I don't really get why she was written in such a way. I think the character could have worked, but there was just a level of animosity that she had for Chief for some reason. Admittedly, I paid little attention to most of what she said, mainly because it just felt like it was going nowhere. From the very beginning, you could have telegraphed she was going to die, and then doing the whole scene where all of her friends are like sitting on this pile of nonsense in a really heroic pose. And I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing. This is very purposeful. I don't know who you're doing this for, but it's not for anyone. There are lore reasons why some ODST don't like Spartans, and even the Chief himself was attacked, and then I believe in lore he killed them? But Chief, when he was 14, was attacked by a bunch of ODSTs who didn't like Spartans. But at this point in the war, that sort of wasn't the case, and just through the entirety of the bonus missions, Lieutenant Williams was just relentlessly berating Chief. It was very grating on somebody who was literally saved by him. If Chief wasn't there, granted Chief, spoilers, died anyways, but if it wasn't for Chief, she wouldn't have had the opportunity to do what she did. And to boil it just down to her berating him the entire time, basically, was just annoying. I'm not saying she needed to be some sycophantic nonsense person just to say, oh, how cool the Chief is. There's definitely something they could have done with the idea, but that's not what they were trying to do. They're clearly trying to use this as a vehicle to deliver some sort of message that doesn't really need to be stated in the form of Halo of all things, let alone at the cost of people like Master Chief and Johnson, who really didn't need any of that. The actual content of the missions were fun enough, and the actual main campaign was very much enjoyable. And I do think this could be maybe a good step forward, but given what we know, there really isn't the next step forward. There is, at least at the moment, no real Halo game in development other than the rumored MMO, but beyond that, there really isn't much that Halo has going on right now. Sort of like after the initial release of Halo Infinite, there was no clear idea of what's next. And If what's next is going to be more remakes that they might spin back up, it's fine, but I don't see where this is really going for Halo Studios. Do I recommend you actually play the game? Yeah, if you've never played Halo before and you're on PlayStation, this is a great way to get started with the franchise. If you really are interested in the story, Halo is a lore-filled basket of amazing things to look into. The core campaign parts of this game have aged remarkably well. The AI can be a little dumb and a little frustrating at times, but it's easily, get overable if you're just seeing this as a vehicle for story. And the new cutscenes are fantastic. I love just overall the art direction, the CGI, at least in the cutscenes, have looked remarkable to me. And I do think if you're interested in this in your own PlayStation, this is a great game to pick up, especially at $50. If you own an Xbox or PC, this is a Game Pass game at its core, to be honest. If you don't have to spend money on this, don't. If you can play this on your Xbox with day one on Game Pass or wait for a sale, do that. Because there is no other way to play the other Halo games on PlayStation. This is your only ounce you're getting. And that makes a ton of sense. Do I think you should get this on Xbox and PC? Maybe. If you really, 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 really want to own it. But I know I'm only playing this through Game Pass, and I'm going to beat it the one time. And I'm probably never going to come back to this, because it has little to no replay value, because there is no multiplayer. And if I wanted to play the campaign again, I'll just go play the Master Chief Collection. This was a fun thing to play for a couple days with my friends, and that's kind of all it's going to be. I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Are you interested in more Halo remakes, or is this just the nail in the coffin for you and you're never coming back to Halo, which would be unfortunate? Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All other social media coverage down below. Last and certainly not least, have a wonderful day.